Hello, all. Welcome to another edition of Low-Code Campfire. This is episode number 201 for Friday, June 27, 2025. I am Dale Warner, head of support for Plant and App. Today we'll be talking about the Low-Code Cafe that just happened 2 days ago and anything else that you want to talk about. This is an event that we do every Friday, or at least most Fridays. It's a gathering where we get together and talk about plant and app coding and the techniques, challenges, experiences that you've had. Try to help your fellow low coders out along the way. We record all of these and put them on YouTube. You can get to them at youtube.com/plantandapp. So we think there's no other choice but to subscribe and hit the alarm bell so that you know as soon as we post all of these. We do the same agenda week by week, or let's say we'll do our typical agenda where we stop and say hello because we're a friendly group, and then we'll go around the campfire with anything first call, anything that you want to talk about, anything submitted in advance, which there was nothing in advance today. We'll look at our other things like our contributions to the community websites and feature requests and things like that. After an hour or so, we'll go into Afterglow, where we stop and turn the recording off and just enjoy each other for a few more minutes before the weekend begins. You can submit things in advance through this questions and topics QR code, or you can just send an email to support@plantandapp.com and we'll do a little bit of research and then, if we can, and then put it on the agenda to talk about. A note, this next Friday is the 4th of July, so I won't be here, so we'll just call it a no gathering next week. We'll get together again in 2 weeks. Hello, all.
Hello,
Good morning.
Dale.
Good
Good morning.
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 Good morning, Dale.
Did anybody come with a first call? Something you'd like to talk about first?
Well, I have something that just came up.
Hello, Don.
I've on numerous occasions have generated a PDF, and clients are very happy with it. I've ranted about PDFs in the past. Now I have another problem with PDFs, and that is they're giving me a PDF with many pages. It's basically I don't know. It's like what was the name of that report tool that everybody used to use? Crystal reports.
Crystal.
That it looks like a giant Crystal report. So there's columns and tables and things are laid out, to fit on a piece of paper. Um, and what I'm interested in doing is pulling that information out and taking the contents of it and putting it into a database. And I'm wondering if there are some tools to get me started there. So I know there's writing to a PDF, but is there reading from a PDF?
Um, Not that I'm aware of within the product. I
Maybe
wouldn't be.
it's something your and my intern should do and give that a try. And then
It,
from there, maybe get a CSV out of it or a JSON and then use the product.
uh, yes, I think that would be a good place to start. It wouldn't surprise a couple of things on that regard. I wouldn't surprise me if there are somebody that has a tool, right? Whether that's chargeable or otherwise, something that you could submit the, the PDF to. Um, I also wouldn't be surprised if the like our AI action. Um, I think if you were to, I wouldn't be surprised if an AI could um, extract information off of a PDF and provide it to you in a nice consumable format, which might be an easy way to go about it, especially if the information is standardized. Um, there's some actions in our PDF stack that could be of use. I think Um, only from the standpoint of if you were feeding something else to extract the information that, and let's get to them here. Um, Being able to extract from a PDF or uh, being able to get to a particular page. If somebody hands you a 100-page PDF and you want to process them one by one or find the things that you're interested in, you could use that to split a PDF apart and then start to tackle it. Um,
Well, that
but
is a possibility. One of the things about these pages are that each page, what they're currently doing is they're doing it by hand. They've got some large old system that generates the PDF, this big report, and it's many pages, but each page is an individual report for an individual um, district. You know, it's a government agency. So the individual district is labeled pretty clearly at the top. So if we could figure out a way to read one of the lines, but then use the extract PDF to grab a page at a time, we could do some kind of a loop that grabs it, figures out what the which agency number it is, and then saves it as number.pdf.
mhm.
And that would be a good first step. I would love to be able to just get all of the data, but maybe the trick is really going back to the source, whoever created this report, and say, you know, is it possible to get a different report where it's laid out differently, and you know, rather than trying to fight with the PDF that they created.
Absolutely. Um, I recall when I was dealing with Crystal, this was years ago, I believe there's an export that you might be able to directly export it, the data to JSON, which would be real easy to parse back in. So yeah, you're absolutely right. If there's a chance of getting the data instead of trying to work through the report, because anything that you do to parse the report could be upset by any changes that they might do to the report that would be outside of your control. So
Right.
data is always better than, yeah.
Okay. Well, that extract is an interesting thing. I'll look at that as a plan B, where we just keep doing the old PDF way. Um, they end up generating hundreds of little PDFs, one page each with just a few lines of data, and then they put a page out there and they upload that PDF, that batch of PDFs, and then they put a page out there that links to them all.
Hmm. So I'm interested. Uh, uh, I don't know if you saw it. There was an upgrade icon next to the PDF, and so I'm interested to see whether we've done something right or wrong here. The PDF was not licensed for this version of Harvest, which I would have not expected. That sounds like perhaps something that I need to look at, and so I'll perhaps refer that in the transcript to something when I'm looking at that, an issue to resolve. I'll go back and check on that.
Got it.
Cool. Anyone else? I had done a few things, and maybe I can trigger some discussion. Actually, the first thing I'm going to do, anybody that attended, I don't know if any of you attended Cafe this last week, 2 days ago, but spent an hour and a half talking on tokens and context, um, which on one level might be a pretty boring topic, except it's so core to our experience that it's probably be a good introduction for people who haven't gotten it figured out yet. Matt, you're putting your thumb up.
Yeah, I didn't attend. I just actually finished listening to it. Very informative, especially if you're new to tokens. It's a must read.
So, out of curiosity, what playback speed do you like when you're listening to an hour and a half worth of me?
Mute.
Man, I walked
Just
right
kidding.
into that one.
No, I like the index, and I just kind of scroll through and jump right into the area of topic area that I want to listen to. It's excellent.
Ah, good. Well, there are there's definitely some um, intricacies and some pitfalls. I don't know if you've ever run into the pitfall of trying to assign a value to something that's a core token. I mean, it's amazing. It'll let you do it and it'll look like it works and it doesn't work. So there's just these things that are available to make you crazy. Um, yeah, anyway, I got to the end of the hour and I didn't feel like it was worth waiting a month to get the rest of it. So I just barreled on through and talked till I was hoarse. Okay. There's a whole page on that coming. Um, let's see if I can find it for our documentation. Which will link to the article, but we it just kind of starts to the whole basic what are tokens and what different kinds of tokens are there. I was halfway through the episode before I realized that in forms, token form fields appear as tokens, so you really have to include those as a special part of the topic. And likewise in listings, there's a whole um, they just appear in context. The fields of your form appear in context. So it's a complex topic. And yeah, good comments on the thanks Mark for pointing out that there's JavaScript and Node.js is a possibility. All right. Um, good. Well, by all means, you should definitely all go listen to that
Hey,
immediately.
Dale,
Yes.
before you move on from tokens, I have a question. I was looking for, and maybe it was there and I didn't see it, um, kind of the deep dive on token caching. Did I miss that, or
You
were you
you
not able to
you
get to that?
you didn't miss it. I really it token caching. I decided that there was so much else going on to just kind of brush past that, and I know it was mentioned in the promo, so sorry about that.
No, no worries.
But I would be happy to. We could spend a minute on that if you want, or more than a minute. Um,
Yeah,
so
and
there's
here's the background for my
these.
question is I've got forms that do a lot of things on either page init or mostly pre-init. And much of it you could look at, and it is in fact repetitive. So when you go from one page to another, I do a lot of the same things over and over again, some of which
Mhm.
are token based. So I want to understand at a deeper level what I should cache, how I should cache it, when I should cache it, and so on and so forth.
So good point. So at the simplest level, when you are defining a token, you have the ability. So there's this is a constant token, has a constant value. There's a caching, there's a setting, and so at a per token level, you can make a decision. And so one of the examples I gave on Wednesday was that you might have an account number and a password for a remote system, and so by putting it in one time in tokens and then using it wherever you need to, that's a good pattern because now you don't have to go find all the places where you use the account and the password. You just change the token and you're good to go. So if kind of extending that for a second, if you on a global basis, if everybody's going to be using the same account and password, that maybe you set that token up to be cached for 5 minutes, and uh, that way, when a token, when it gets used, the first time it comes from whatever the definition of the token is. The second time it comes from the cache, and the cache is faster. Um, so for your purpose, that every page has repetitive information, especially if computations are taking place. I mean, the harder it is to generate a token, the more benefit that you're going to get from cache. Um, if it takes however much CPU cycles, let's say it takes 10 seconds to generate the information, it would significantly slow down. You're moving from page to page if it has to recompute it every time. So uh, if it's so let's say the information is global. Every user sees the same thing. If you turn on caching, um, that now it's going to it'll take 10 seconds to generate the first time, and it'll be instantaneous on the second and third until the cache expires. So probably the main thing to think about is that or to know about caching is that if a token is called in exactly this, if it's called once, and if it's then called again in exactly the same way, then the cache will be used. If it's called in a different way, then it'll recompute. So an example of that might be if we edit this and change the definition to like my account. So when we save and test this, um, so now we're doing a substitution into it. If you call it with my account and some variable, the first time it computes. The second time, until this 300-second cache expires, it's pulling it from cache. If somebody else calls it with a different value, then it computes for that one. And so each variation of the call of the token is cached. Is that helpful?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Is any of that answering the question that you were trying to get to?
Um, Mine is more along the lines of so I have different users that have got the identical pages loaded on their computer with different they're looking at different data, but it's the same page/form. So in that context, I think that makes sense for a user cache.
Yes.
But then when that one user, for instance, who's got these cached values, in my case, switches projects from project A to project B, regardless of cache, I might have set it for 5 minutes and that's great, but then they change projects and I need to destroy my token values and recreate them and then recache them again.
Right. So there's a couple of different ways you could approach that. First of all, if you use user caching, then now the caching is isolated per user. But the other thing is that if you pass in the project, for example, like this as well,
Yeah, yeah.
then it will automatically take care of the I mean, it'll be cached per user and done by project. Or you could just do it by project if they happen to be working on the same project and it makes sense. But
Right.
maybe,
I was gonna point that out as if there's nothing specific to the user when you load a project, if it's all based on that project ID, then I would say cache it globally because then it makes it more convenient for everyone who's using the page because they'll get the cached information and it will be faster. Does that make sense? Dale, is that what I say makes sense?
Absolutely, it makes sense to
Yeah.
me. You
Mhm.
really just kind of have to think it through, right?
Yeah.
What's the
Well, there's my problem right there. Stop.
Mm.
okay?
No, I'm kidding.
So
Um,
your problem is thinking it through, is that what you're saying?
yeah. But in the case of like the my project token parameter, um, so that what you're saying, if I go with that approach by, let's say in this case, changing project, by feeding a new project parameter, regardless of my cache settings, I am effectively destroying and recreating that token, and therefore the
Well,
cache.
Well, you still have the
well,
cache for the other project too, but now you have this other project cached as well.
Okay, so both
Yeah.
cache. Okay,
So
both.
so if somebody else were to load the other project, the original one that this user was looking at, they would get cached values because it was already cached.
Okay, that's very, very important. Thank you. Hmm.
um, I think the easiest way to think about it, at least for me, is that this uh, it's cached under the key or using this particular construct, right? These particular characters end up causing caching.
Yeah.
So if the characters vary, if your parameters vary, then you get a different cache. And Patrick is 100% on. It's not that the other one is destroyed, it's that you've you've used different characters and so a different one is created.
So this cache then exists on the server effectively,
Yes,
and
definitely.
uh, then okay, so potentially any idea of kind of server memory impact of these things? Because I don't want to go wild with this and then shoot myself in the foot.
Um, I, I haven't hit a practical limit of this. I'm sure if your server was memory constrained, it could be an issue. But this is actually, as far as I know, this is a core DNN feature that we are leveraging. Um, and you have to think about I think the alternative is if you're not using caching, then you're using memory and CPU to create the token every time. So in my estimation, it's a much lower drag to do the caching. If you have humongous, I'm sure there could be an upper limit, but um, somewhere early on, I did a low-code feature focus video on caching, and I'm sure I could find it for you if you want. But I created a ton of content and cached it, and I mean it's extraordinarily much faster to use caching. So I say you're probably not going to hit a limit.
Okay.
Also, what you're setting here is going to help manage that too, right? If you cached it uh, for every user session and cached it for days, then it would build up. But if you're doing it globally, like if you decide that project is sufficient, if they're in project and there is only project-based information, not user-based information in that token, and you cache it for 5 minutes, then while your system is active, you've got one copy of it shared among all users for 5 minutes. After
Hmm.
a while, it disappears. The cache cleans up all by itself.
Okay.
Since we're talking about cache, I wanted to point out that there is an action for clearing cache, a couple of actions for clearing cache. Let's see if we can find them. So there's clear cache item, clear user cache. So I think the technique that we were talking about earlier, where you pass in project information, is the best way. You've kind of clearly thought through that you want to that the information doesn't change per project for that period of time, so you're good. But you can also force the clearing of cache for a given user, and that just means that the next hit to that token is going to cause the computation to happen, not the cache. So you can destroy them explicitly.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You bet. Cool. Well, I hope that gets you where you want to go. And it is, so I have a project, the mapping one that I've talked about in the past, and I have done some caching things. And when you don't think about it correctly, I've done that, done it, not gotten it right, and then you start seeing cached values when you really wish you had fresh values, and so it can be annoying. So thinking through the mechanism of what it does and when you need to clear it is useful. But
Dale, that just happened to me yesterday. It was very annoying. I was getting a cached value. I was expecting a new value. And that's why I wrote in the chat that I recommend including something in your naming of your token to indicate that it's cached so that you just aware of it.
that is a great concept. I hadn't a nice coding technique. Doesn't impact the functionality, but it does remind you that, yeah. All right. Hey, this might be a ghost story for somebody else. It was a little bit of a ghost story for me. It's not a plant and app thing, but I use Chrome all the time. I was trying to figure out if you're familiar with it. Let's see. If you're looking at your cookies, which in Chrome is available, uh, I'm on Google Docs, so I'm not I'm expecting to find one of my sites here anyway. Um, let's do that. Here we go. Sorry for wandering around. So the cookies, there they are finally. The cookies that get set, if you set a cookie, it's here on the page. So for example, I have a cookie for language and last page ID, whatever. And see, these three are session cookies. So the idea is these are intended to be very transient, and when you close your browser, they go away. Versus you can set cookies to last for a year or two, and some things that automatically are set to last for a very long time. And when you close your browser, open the browser up again, those cookies still exist. So what I was finding was that I'd close my browser, I'd come back, and I still had all my session cookies, which was kind of completely counter to what I thought was supposed to be going on. What I found out was that Chrome has this nice setting on startup, continue where you left off. The idea is that you can close down your browser, you can open it back up again, and all your tabs are still there. You got 100 tabs open, they all open up again, and you're good to go. Well, it doesn't clear the session. That setting leaves session cookies undisturbed, and so they start stacking up forever. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just something that you need to know about. Or it could be useful, right? So in my case, I was when I go in to edit a ticket, support ticket that comes in from you guys, at the point that I go into the ticket, I devised that screen to put a cookie out there saying, when did I start editing the ticket? because at the conclusion of working on that ticket, I want to log the amount of time I spent on it, and maybe I mean, I could have coded it a different way, but I did it that way. And those are session cookies, and I noticed that I had every ticket that I'd edited from now till from back until April were all still there, and they should have just gone away in the same day. So anyway, if you are seeing odd behavior, consider the fact that your session cookies might not be um, as transient as you think.
So Dale, are you, I'm a little bit unclear. Doesn't IIS manage the length of time that a session cookie is alive? I thought it did.
I'm sorry. I've now conflated well, nope. So there are session tokens. If you put something into session, set session, get session, that is the backend IIS session. Then we have this other concept, set cookie, get cookie.
Mm-hmm.
So cookies are browser based. Session is user based, and then within that, um, sorry, when you're talking about browser cookies, now there is this concept of when does it expire, and so this is a different use of the word session. It's not a session variable. It's a cookie that has a session expiration.
Okay.
Just
Thanks for explaining that. Yeah, I was confusing it
sure.
too.
Um, and those are under core tokens. Let's see. Cookie. Set cookie. Just wanted to point out that we have this non-persistent true or false that so I think which I think is the default of if non-persistent true, which ends up being a session cookie, versus if you have persistent non-persistent false. I hate that terminology, non-persistent. Anyway, because it's kind of ends up being a double negative. But you can use use these um, to set a cookie that will expire at some point in the future, and then it becomes uh, a cookie with a date, not a cookie with a session. I think by default, if you just use set cookie without all this functionality, it will default to being a session cookie.
Okay.
And see, like set session doesn't have all that persistence. You can't control it. You can't add, and we've kind of been down this road before. Cookies are on the browser. The user can clear them or change them at any time at will. So hopefully they don't. But um, you get to exert some kind of control or ask for a cookie to be stored for a while. But you can't session. You can't control it. You're I have other stuff to show you.
Dale, do you know if your Chrome settings have the clear site data on when you close the browser?
That's a item. Let's see if we can. Let's look at that setting.
It's under privacy and security. Yeah, under there, delete browsing data. That's the way mine's set, and I haven't experienced what you're
So
seeing.
what did I, this was called continue where you left off. So it's a different setting. Continue where you left off. This on startup. So this was the setting that I have, and all the sessions were living forever. When you start for this is the one that after I changed this, closing it out at all, they all deleted. So, and then I tried this one, being able to open a specific set of pages, because I do have the same things open all the time, but I didn't really like this because it did open up all of my pages, but I use the groups, the grouped tabs pretty extensively, and it doesn't open up in groups. It just opens up all your tabs. Anyway. Version 1.27, it's, you know that it's out. It's a soft release. I don't think we've told anybody about it yet. It's just the button is showing up. Anybody using 127 and having success or otherwise?
Yeah, this is Mark. I've loaded it up on one of my sites, and I have not had any trouble. I have appreciated it.
Good. Got a slide here in a minute showing you stuff that's coming down the line, that most of it is coming in 127. So
You know, one thing I looked for as soon as I loaded it up was I wanted to see the file manager and use it. So I did use it. Thank you goes out to Patrick on that, especially. Liked it very much.
cool. Good. So that's part of my my next topic. Been doing quite a bit in the documentation. So our release notes have been brought up to date. There's one here I'll mention because you guys are the ones that are most likely to encounter this. If you have custom templates either for Search Boost or NavXP, there's a small change that you have to, an inherits change that you have to do. So just kind of a calling attention to that. It's a two-minute job, but you need to do it if you're using custom templates. Out of curiosity, anybody here use custom templates for either of these inputs or outputs?
No.
Yeah. There is and Patrick, you're invited to take a look and see if I did anything useful at all on files. I tried to document the files functionality and how it works and what you can click and do. So that's up to date. We've demonstrated quite a while ago that one of the things that we added in 127 was contracts, workflow contracts. And so this explains workflow contracts and all the different why you use it and what it might be of value for. And then documented the OpenID connector. So making progress in the documentation. I know that that's boring as heck, but if you need the documentation, well, maybe it'll be there for you when you're ready for it. It's a little tedious for me to put it out, but here we go. All right. We got some excitement around this one last time, so I thought we'll play it again. This is actually right off our board, so I don't have to do any work. I just all the things that are related to the support that are in our Kanban board, things being worked. Thought we'd talk about them. So things that are done in 127, Ben, just for you, DNN SF Events on. So you can get a hold of you when the grid finally loads, whatever it's doing, you can find out that it has been loaded and go on and do something with it. So that was a Bootstrap 5 problem, and that's worked. There's a hotfix that is or will be available in 127 for that. There was a nice bug that since it came in through support, I'll mention. I don't know if any of you were waiting for this, but um, basically, if you're using um, Page Builder on a mobile device and you had the hamburger menu instead of the full menu, that it changes to a label of a button were not being up, or the changes to the states of buttons, things like that, were not being updated. And so while it looked nice on a desktop, when you try to use it on a mobile device, you weren't seeing the right thing. So that was kind of ugly. That's a hot fix available for that. Um, it wasn't any of you, but one of our regular users was having a problem with automations and trigger dates. And so we are now um, solving the problem about that. So that's done. Again, hotfix ready. Code review is the last step before things go into testing. And so this is for one of you. Jim, nope, Jerry. Um, this repost data action is going to in pre-init. We've done the work and it's getting double checked, and we'll check it out here. But it's headed your way in 127. This I think I reported this maybe in QA last week. It's gone back to development, so it got rejected and came back. But um, this is all about adding more classes to um, in listings to be able to style rows and columns and cells far more easily. So still coming. And then things down the line, being able to do full tooltips. There was an icon problem in Bootstrap 5 when you use the field tooltip. So that's something we've put on the list to work on. Mark, I think this was you. Thumbnail action, create thumbnail action under listings was not done, not working right.
I
And calendar,
appreciate that.
yeah, it's coming. And calendar view localization, trying to being able to pick a language that's in the queue, right? Ready means we haven't started it at all yet, but it's approved for work when it comes to the surface. Questions on any of these or? All right. Community forum. I know that there were some posts out there. I'm not sure that there's anything, whether it's worth bringing up, but there's been a little bit of activity out there the last week. Um, here's something new. Let's see if we can sort this out.
That came in while you were talking, Dale.
I know. No. Post in my official capacity. Isn't it great that the 10 of you can watch me work? Jerry, you asked about.
Dale, would it be ill-advised for him to refresh the browser at that point while it seems like it's hung trying to start up again? Is that ill-advised?
Um, so that's a great question. So when this happens, the bouncing plant and app logo, if it happens for more than 2 minutes plus the time it normally takes for your site to wake up, so I mean typically 10 minutes max. Um, then it's cosmetic, and you're right. It should refresh might help. I'm assuming that he did at some point refresh or go to a different browser, and it's saying that. I mean, since he says he can't get to automation or workflows, so I don't think a refresh is gonna. I think he's already past that point, is my guess. And yeah, did you see where I assumed that he had a pre-upgrade backup? You guys have heard me preach about
I
that.
did notice that as you were
Yeah.
typing it. Yes, one would hope so.
We all do that.
Yes, I know. It's it makes it easier for me to be empathetic when you actually do file a support case. Jerry, I didn't look to see if you had any feedback on this, but URL rewrite, I think, is the thing that, and this part of, I think, why this URL redirect toolkit, part of why we're obsoleting it. There's most of the functionality of Redirect Toolkit is available elsewhere where it wasn't when the toolkit first came out. And so it's like finding the right tool to use in place of it.
Thanks, Dale. We've used Redirect Toolkit from the beginning of time, and on some of our newer projects. What spawned the whole conversation was I noticed it wasn't part of the Plant app, and I was just wondering what its future was. And now I know. But I don't know. Some years back, not too terribly long ago, I just started using mostly Action Form to handle those type of logic things because I use Action Form in the Events tab to do all kinds of data processing where there's not even a form involved. It's just kind of my go-to. And then a lot of that has been switched off to workflows and then of course API endpoint for doing things where relevant. But yeah, so it's a sad day for Redirect Toolkit, but we'll all get through it just fine. Other than that, you know, I was just giving it some love because think back where we were 10 years ago. That was a heck of a program. That somebody put a lot of effort into that.
Yeah. And the people who have used it, I know I've got at least one ticket out there from one of our clients in Italy that love it and don't want it to go away. But we I don't know, somewhere along the way there was a decision that this is not.
Somebody had offered a fair question though. Redirect Toolkit could do something that I can't remember exactly what the term was, but it would redirect on any page on some type of a global setting where no matter what page you're on, Redirect Toolkit could redirect to a particular page until something was satisfied. And we were using it for a lot of our European compliance to where people have to sign off on a couple of things. And so instead of it being specific to a particular page, it would run no matter what page you were on. Do you remember that feature, Dale?
Mm-hmm.
And I
And
don't
I
know
think
how I would
that's
make that work with Action Form or
no,
another way.
I think that's you could make it work with Action Form from the standpoint of having a form that appears on every page, which is kind of heavy.
Yeah.
Uh, but I think give me just a second, maintenance mode. This one, that I talked about at DNN Summit. But this is all about using rewrite. But the URL rewrite will, you can do that kind of thing uh, to force it to rewrite. Although that, I don't know about conditionally. That's another question.
Yeah. No worries.
This particular one was it was actually conditional on a browser cookie. If you had the browser cookie, you got through, and if you don't have the browser cookie, you get the site is in maintenance mode thing. So there's if you're doing compliance and the compliance results in a browser cookie, this technique that's shown here could be used to make sure that you clicked the checkbox before you proceeded to anywhere else in the site. So I would look heavily at URL rewrite and check with your intern.
Will do.
I can't remember. I don't think we've done. I think maybe we've talked about some encryption, um, maybe some demonstrations within Campfire. I, I've been thinking that this might be a good topic for Cafe sometime to just kind of try and do everything all about encrypting. But that this particular question went back and found a JavaScript from 2019, and I'm not sure that's the place that I would start. I think the actions, the tokens that we have, might be a better place to start with encryption for at least the purpose that this client was talking about. Okay, I'm pretty well through my list for today. Anybody? I guess we're at last call. Something that you want to talk about before we turn the recording off? Then we'll call it there. Thanks for joining this episode of Low-Code Campfire. We will see you again in 2 weeks, not next week. I hope you all have a great 4th of July. Hang around for a few minutes and we'll do Afterglow. We'll see you then.